Hi, my name is Anna Raskov. I'm originally from Prague, Czech Republic, but I have been living in the US for past 17 years. I live with my husband and son in Brooklyn. When I was 37, on my 37th birthday, I found a lump in my breast. And shortly afterwards, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. My son at that time was 2.5 years old, and we were just starting to think about second child. My profession right now is I'm a photographer, and that's what we started to do. We started to document ourselves. Basically, the day after we found out the results that the tumor is not just benign. My 37th birthday, I was just laying down on a couch and I scratched myself and I found a lump that was not there before. It was like this really kind of round, it felt like frozen pea. And to be honest, I immediately freaked out. I knew it wasn't there before. I had a friend that was diagnosed with breast cancer about 3 years before me, about the same age. Actually, her son was almost the same age as my son. And yeah, I remember the moment my stomach shrunk and I went to internet. I did some really quick Google research, and then I went to my husband, to Jordan, and I told him that. And we both freaked out. Jordan's mom was actually diagnosed when he was 13. She's still with us. But yeah, I wanted to find out what it is, like immediately. So I called my gynecologist at that time that I went to see 3 months before. And I remember he did my physical. And then I remember asking him about mammogram. And he told me I don't have to worry because there is no family history. I'm healthy, I'm young. So, and anyway, insurance wouldn't pay for it. And so that was it. So then I called his office and they told me that I can come in like month and a half. But I was like not feeling right about it. I remember pushing them, telling them I found lump, it wasn't there. And they told me, oh, I'm so sorry, but that's it. Like you're okay. And so we actually told Jordan's mom, and we found different doctors, and they immediately put me to an exam. I went to mammogram, and that's when I found out that there's something like dense breast tissue, which I remember that nobody ever talked to me about, and that impacts 40% of women. Very important detail to kind of leave out. But so mammogram didn't pick up anything because I'm one of the 40% of women who have dense breast tissue, and mammogram doesn't work well on our breast tissues. So it didn't pick up anything, but I was sent to ultrasound, and ultrasound found thing. My doctor also felt it. And so they did immediately biopsy. Then I remember again having ultrasound, again having mammogram, but what it picked up was only the marker that they left as a biopsy marker. And about 3 or 4 days later, I had a phone call to work. And I remember the biopsy doctor was the same woman. She told me if she asked me if I have a couple minutes, and I said, yeah, of course. And then she told me, well, you have breast cancer. It's positive. That was a real shock to hear it over the phone. And from that moment on, I was not able to pick up a phone that when I saw the ending of the hospital. So it actually had to go through Jordan because I immediately started to shake. And it took me about 2 years to be able to pick up that phone when I saw the ending. Yeah, and then it just small short like slowly started to trickle in all the details. I like before I had no idea, like dense breast tissue, never heard of it. Different kinds of breast cancer, never heard of it. I had no idea that there is something triple positive, triple negative, estrogen positive. Like they start throwing all these names, and I'm like, wait a minute, guys. I thought I have breast cancer, and that's all what you hear, right? It's like breast cancer. And how do you deal with that? I knew that I might get mastectomy, but then you find out that there are like millions of different kinds of cancers and different kinds of breast cancer. And for that, it influenced the treatment plan. So they found out that I am triple positive with an aggressive grade, but I found it early because I have small breasts, and that's what even my doctor told me, that luckily I have small breasts, and I was able to find it by myself because my next gynecological was like a year later, basically. And so that's it was so crazy. Within like basically 2 weeks, you start hearing all these things. You have to start navigating it. You're learning because everybody's telling you all these words that you have never heard. And you're thrown into making very quick decisions that might be influencing the rest of your life. So I remember I didn't even know that if you have breast cancer, you might have issues with fertility later on. And that was like one thing that we really wanted was second child. And we were just that week, we started to like, yeah, let's have a second child. Let's try it because our son is so cute. He's 2.5. Like let's give him a sibling. And all of a sudden, you start hearing mortality rates and morbidity and all these words, and you're like, I might not be here for my son to actually see me. So get it out of me. That was like my first thing was like, I need to stay here for my son. I want to see him growing up because if I die now, he won't remember me. He won't know that I was here. He wouldn't remember. So I remember that I was like, okay, just get it out and do like give me anything and that will make me stay here. Like give me the best chance to stay here. And that's what I did. I had lumpectomy. Um, I remember at that time after the surgery, um, our my surgeon and my husband, they were talking about like, my surgeon was like, so now you have to decide. Now is the time to decide what are you going to do about your fertility. But my cancer is also estrogen positive, so I wasn't reacting well. And at that time, whatever they had as a um, tests and studies was not great to actually keep preserving eggs and all these things. So we decided not to do it. And then I went about 3 weeks after I had my lumpectomy, I had my sentinel nodes removed. About 3 weeks afterwards, I started chemo. I remember the doctor telling me that was a different doctor. I was an oncologist, and the first meeting with her was amazing. Like she explained everything. I remember her telling us that it will be difficult. It will be like a year of treatment, but hopefully after the end of the treatment, I will be okay. And I remember like looking backwards how naive I was because I felt like, okay, so I will just finish the treatment. Everything will be like it was before. I'll be the same person. And, like I will be like, okay, my broken leg is healed. And that's not how it was. I started with the chemo. I had radiation. I had biological treatment. It's basically another infusion every 3 weeks. My chemo regimen was every week. I had pretty toxic reaction to one of the components of the chemo, so they had to put me under oxygen and start a different kind of chemo. Um, the radiation that was really tough mentally because I was in my machine was also used for pediatric patients, and that was really hard to go there and see a stroller, the same as I had for my son at that time. And then the machine, that was really nice, they like put stickers on it so that the kids would be not moving and they would be looking at it, but they basically lock you in this room that has doors that are like about 2 feet thick, and that's where you are for a minute or so. And yeah, that was exhausting. And then you have the biological treatment. And then I started tamoxifen. That's pill that slows down production of estrogen. So basically, since I was 37, I am in premenopausal, and that's really hard. And by that time, which was like about September, so I started, my surgery was in January. By September, October, I was exhausted mentally, and I started to be suicidal. And that's something that really scared me because I never had that issue before. I never had issues with depression. And I remember standing above Hudson River thinking, okay, if I jump in, everything will be okay. That freaked me out like really bad. And at that day, I had mental breakdown. Theoretically, I was like over that hump of the most active treatment, and I was supposed to be in that like stage of like, okay, now I'm getting into a really, really like, the survivorship. And instead of like celebrating or whatever, I felt actually horrible. And it took me a long time to get out of it, like 7 years out of treatment, 6 years out of treatment, 7 years out of the diagnosis, but I'm still working about like with that moment of like, how do I put that together? And with that, actually, really helped me the project we started to work on when we started to photograph and document our story and our journey. So I started to take my camera with me everywhere. I would put, I remember, because even though you're together with your partner, there are like so many moments when they just let you, like, your partner cannot come with you and he has to wait outside and you're alone in this like room in a robe. And I started to think about, okay, how do I show other people how it is to sit in this room? So I remember just like looking at stuff, where do I put the camera so that the angle looks good? So that really helped me mentally, but also like backwards, when I remember like being 2 years out and looking through the photos, and it gave me the stamp of, not stamp of approval, that might not be the right words, but it gave me that thing that could tell, okay, you went through it, it's not in your head. It was extremely tough, and you looked like hell because that's how you felt. And it's okay because it's still you. Um, and then I had to start like piece together the person that I was before. I had like, I had dyed like blonde hair and I look different, and it's still me, but you have to start connecting that person together with the person you're now. And the photography was something that really, I think, saved me. And I have been like going through every appointment. I still do it. I go to a doctor appointment and I bring my camera with me. It's just something that I feel is safe. And it's like that, gives your mind a different outlet and helps me. So that's what I found out about our project, how really it helped. And the interesting part was that I didn't even feel the need to show it. But then we were talking with Jordan because he was also taking photos, and we realized that we have like basically a dialogue of photography that's talking about what he saw and what I saw. And I never took so many self portraits as I did during the first 2 years, 2 or 3 years. And it was all because I just didn't know who that person is looking at me. I remember after chemo, I was not able to remember. I was lost, like literally, like I felt like probably what people with Alzheimer's have, where you just walk and you don't know where you are. You see a movie. I just literally we were on a plane to Florida, and I was watching a movie that apparently we watched with Jordan during my treatment, and I had no idea. Like it's just not there. Like I remember moments with my son, and that's why the photography was also so important because it's giving me the memory back. Because through that picture, I remember the moments. But yeah, the chemo brain was absolutely horrendous. So I started to do puzzles because I read somewhere that people with dementia and Alzheimer's that they practice that. It's good for your brain muscle and brain practice and training. So that really helped me, and also helps with neuropathy. Navigating partnership throughout all these things, that's really interesting, I would say. First of all, I was lucky because Jordan is the one with in this couple that's like more connected to his feelings. I grew up Czech, and especially in the time when I was growing up, there was nothing like, oh, let's talk about our feelings. I remember when I first went to Jordan's family and they were sitting at a table and they were just talking about feelings. I'm like, we never did that. But like in my family, we're like, something bad happened and a lot of bad things were happening because my family wasn't the best. My father was actually abusive, so it wasn't great. But basically, we dealt with it like, you look at your mother and your mom's just like, our rug was very much, there was a lot of stuff underneath, but we didn't talk about it. So when I was going through these things, I think that I have tendency to kind of like go inside of me more than being vocal and talk about stuff because that's how I was learned. I was learned to like, let's not talk about feelings, let's not talk about this. And that was really hard. Just like getting through the shock of hearing the words you have cancer and then literally realizing that because of me, we will never have second child. So I was completely blaming me. I was blaming myself. And I remember that was something that I actually felt there was a big divide between me and Jordan because I felt that he was not that sad. For me, I was like heartbroken. And now I'm talking about like when I was like out of the treatment a little bit. Yeah, I was like literally heartbroken. It's physical. It's a pain like you cannot imagine. It's literally physical. It's just like, and I felt that Jordan was not as responsive to it. But when we were like, I remember going through the photos together and we started to talk about it. We started to talk about different moments. And for him, I know that for him was more important that I will be okay. That was for him. And he was like getting happier because he felt like I was out and we were over it. And like, like I will stay with him. That's what he was worried about, that I would just die. And for me, I remember I just wanted, I was grieving. I was in so much, I had so much sadness and literally grieving the possibilities of another child. And I know that, people have tendency to tell you, oh, you have one, that's okay. But I realized that you can actually grieve and have a child. You can actively be sad and be happy because you love your child so much, but you can also be extremely sad. So you can have both emotions at the same moment. It doesn't have to be either or, it's both. And that was one part of our relationship that helped us by literally going through the photos and talking about it. And then there's another level, and that's intimacy, because we weren't old. And that's something that I mean, it's very needed for a healthy relationship to be intimate with each other. And I had really hard time to accept my body, um, and like let other person to like actually love my body, because yeah, the intimate relations is about like actually telling other person I love you so much, right? I want to be with you, or like having good experience. And for me it was like looking at myself and I'm like, I hate you. I hate looking literally at the mirror thinking I hate you so bad. And so even though I had basically like my surgeon did such a great job, like you cannot see it, but like just letting Jordan touch me was really hard. And how do you let other person love you when you don't love yourself? That was for me very hard. And yeah, and then you have the parenthood on top of it, where you have the responsibilities and you have to. He was so small, so like you're trying to protect the child so much. There was no like talking about like, he knew mommy is sick and not feeling well. I mean, so we shaved my hair in front of him so that he wouldn't freak out. He didn't care, maybe because he saw it, I don't know. And then like you just together with your partner, you're trying to do the best for that little person that's so dependent on you, and you're never sure if you did the right thing. You're not sure if you didn't scar that child forever, which he definitely has anxiety. We keep talking about it, because especially because of our project, so he sees it a lot. But yeah, he cannot like run away from it. About 2 years ago I started to feel like I want to make a book, and I felt it was maybe like I definitely pushed us to make a book. It was just I'm like, okay, we have to do something. I feel like I want to put it together, to have it in my hand and see that that's for real. And I underestimated how hard it will be. I underestimated how hard it will be to be working with the photos, not just in conversation with Jordan or showing it to other people, but like literally like putting it together as a cohesive story, and how painful it will be. But I also felt it was healing for me, because I literally put it together, and I went through it again and again and again. And I felt that helped me in a weird way. Like we had so many arguments throughout the book as a creative partners, obviously, because I didn't like what he was picking, he didn't like what I was picking, but that was also helpful, like just look at the story. And again, we were talking about it and then talking to other people, and then realizing that other people actually feel connected through that book and through the photography. That was very interesting to me, because at the beginning I felt like it's so personal. It's just us, like who would be interested in looking at our pictures? And it was interesting to see like the feedback we were getting. People felt connected. They had their own experience, and through the photos they were able to express their experience. That was really interesting. And for me, it's very important that we have a part of survivorship there, because I feel like it's so many times it's kind of forgotten. Ask for help. And I know, again, that's very hard, especially when you're not feeling well, to ask for help. But try it. Try to ask for help. And maybe mention that you're not feeling well. It's okay not to feel well and not to be in mood. But just, it's so hard, like, to give an advice. Like, what worked for me was literally being open and talk about it. And then I found out other people who went through it. So I guess probably, like, if you're not feeling like you want to talk about it openly, find a therapy group or a group that's in your hospital, because almost every hospital has like survivor groups, or I know you can do it on Zoom now, to meet with other people. It really works. Doesn't matter what kind of cancer, but the person that heard they had cancer will understand you on a very primal level, because they also went through it. So I guess that's my advice. And talk to your partner. If you have a partner, just talk to them, because what they're going through is not easy either. And you're not alone, but just try to talk together.